Good evening. You are flying with Pod Squadron podcast. All wings report in. This is Andy. Pod job standing by.
Oh, I suppose it's my turn because we don't have Tracy with us tonight. So, hey guys, this is Lexi Podmay standing by.
Hey, it's Jason. I'm back. Children of a Lesser Pod, standing by.
All ships to attack formation. Mission objectives to talk about Star Wars in movies, streaming, animation, books, themed experiences, and your art and inspiration from the galaxy far, far away. Today's flight plan includes Andor Season 2, Episodes 7, 8, and 9. And of course, as we round up on the very end of the series, as the final three episodes come to us tomorrow night. But for all of you out there, all comm channels are open. Follow us on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram. Find us on Twitch and YouTube. Like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you know when we have new content. But first, I'll be your squad leader today. I'm Andy Lowe, aka the Chinese Pirate. I am a director, storyteller, puppeteer, performer, and fight choreographer. On my wing is Lexi.
I'm an event coordinator, background in theater, and my hobby is designing cosplays I cannot afford to make. Sometimes I post on the Feral Geek on Facebook and Instagram. Sometimes, if you're lucky.
And on my other wing is Jason.
Yes, me, Jason, Beyond Forever Studios. I make movies sometimes and act sometimes and do all things sometimes. It depends on the day. So, but good to see you guys.
Good to see
Yeah,
you,
it's good to
because
have
we
you.
are just one squad in this fleet. We're part of the Geekish Network. That's right here on YouTube. You can also find us on Facebook. As well as to attack position, we are going in. So we're gonna get right into Andor season 2, episodes 7, 8, and 9. If you have not watched, you've had a week. But
What are you
and I can't
doing?
believe it. But do go see it before you hit pause and come back, because we will jump right into spoilers when we get into this. But first, we did pass May the 4th last week, and as well as Revenge of the 6th or 5th, depending on how who you are. um There's always a reason to celebrate. But Jason, you went to Star Wars night at the Disneyland park.
I did. I went
Um,
with my daughter right there. She went for the first time. She had never been because she's not. I know I'm going to lose some cred here. She's not as big of a Star Wars gal as others, but it was funny that night she fully embraced it. I think just being there and just being around other people, like we went on Star Tours 7 times in a row. God help my
oh
stomach.
wow.
Yeah, because she was insistent, ironically enough, she's like, I want to get the message from Andor. As you know, writing that, it's completely random.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, we must have gotten Ahsoka like 48 times and then landed on the Wookiee planet 200 times, so she never saw him. But it was okay. But no, it was a lot of fun. We had a good time. So
So any highlights, character meet and greets that
yeah, we only. I mean, we found the Java one early on because it was in the corner, so we did
that's
that.
really
And
cool.
then yeah, and then she wanted to she was insistent like, oh, I want to meet Han Solo and Princess Leia, and I'm like, I don't think they do that, or it's very infrequent. And the only thing we saw in the old Tomorrowland, the Interventions building, they had a Rebel Friends of the Rebellion meet and greet, but they didn't say who.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I'm like, that's going to be our best bet. Let's see. And sure enough, it was Han Solo and Princess Leia. And
Nice.
I was just like, you got lucky, kid, because I had no idea. And so she was on cloud nine because the guy who did Harrison Ford sounded like Harrison Ford.
Or rather, she was on Cloud City.
Yeah, she was. Damn it, I didn't get so close.
Nice.
But that was cool. And then yeah, I mean
They did have a walk around Luke, I hear, this year. Did you
Yes, in
manage
Galaxy.
to catch
We
him?
we saw him. We didn't get pictures or anything, but we did see him walking around in his cloak. And
And were the Han and Leia, what era were they? Were they like
uh, uh, New Hope.
New Hope
Yeah, yeah.
vests?
Yes, vest. She was in her full white dress and the buns, and he was typical vest. And yeah,
So I gotta say, I've been to the park a couple of times on nights when they had it. I didn't attend, but
Mm,
it is quite a trip that last hour before they close the park to the regular guests because
yes.
all of the event goers start arriving and all this cosplay shows up.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different kind of mayhem, which I mean, I was quite tickled, but it's like, you had like the park official walk around Ray, who comes in from backstage, and no one notices because she
Because
just
Ray
kind
from
of,
Wisconsin shows up and
yeah,
it's,
she
yeah.
just blends in with the crowd. There's so many different variations and so many like really impressive costumes that make
Yeah.
the Ray costume just disappear, honestly. So
Yeah.
she just kind of walked around and I don't even think she talked to anybody. She just walked around.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny too, like you said, to watch like, where they're getting the daytime goers out and the Star Wars night people in, and you can hear the ones that were like, "What? It closes early? No one told me," like the people who didn't pay attention. So that's always like, oh, I feel bad because they wanted to stay till like 8 or 9 o'clock and they get kicked out. But it's no, I mean, there were a lot of good cosplays, like you said, and some that I thought were actual employees.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing too, right? When
Yeah.
some of the costumes are actually like better quality than
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm surprised that they, because I know they're a little strict on what you can wear and all that, but I mean, there were some that I absolutely was like, "Oh, you clearly work here," and then nope. Then up they
Yeah.
went to get their baby stroller. I'm like, "Oh, you're not. Okay, we're
yeah.
okay." So,
So good.
but yeah, but it was a lot better than some of the years I'd gone prior.
I
So, but
saw
I
I saw a
I
post on Reddit. Sorry, Andy. Real quick, I saw a post on Reddit where a Disney pass holder re-upped her pass on Star Wars night, so she was dressed in cosplay, and so the picture on the app is her in cosplay.
oh, nice.
And like, so when she logs in, because they have a whole new check-in system,
Yeah.
which I found out just recently, is your picture pops up on the screen, and it's face, the little face scan, and then she showed a picture of like her in cosplay on the screen, and so like you can't. And from what I understand, and you could probably inform you better. You can't change your profile pic.
No.
you cannot
You
because
can't.
because the
Right?
new system uses facial recognition, so that
she-
becomes the official
So
scan.
hopefully she wasn't painted like green. With
No,
like,
she was totally. Her face was totally painted. I think
Oh,
she was
wow.
like a.
Oh, no.
I think she was like a Twi'lek, but like it was. I have to find it. Yeah, because she's got the ears and everything. It's crazy. I'll have to find
great.
it. I'll post it.
but then when she goes back like on a normal Monday, they're like,
yeah,
"That's
exactly. It's not you.
Well, so this was the other kind of interesting hack. So I talked to someone that was there, and they weren't even there for the event, but apparently because it's a day with the event, they don't enforce the no cosplay rule all day. So she was just a pass holder who decided to just take advantage of this loophole so she could be there at the park in cosplay the whole day.
nice." And they probably thought for sure she worked there, huh? They're like, "Oh, so how do I get to Oga's?" It's like, no, I'm going to Pizza Planet. Leave me alone. So,
Anyways, yeah, and I'm still debating about whether I'm gonna break down and get that clone trooper helmet popcorn
oh
bucket.
yeah, they didn't have that when I went.
Oh
So
yeah.
that wasn't until May the 4th, and I went like in the middle of April.
Oh.
So yeah, because I wanted the Jawa sipper, and that wasn't until May the 4th, and I was like,
Oh
damn it.
shoot.
Yeah,
Well,
so
okay, how about the Death Star? Did you get the?
they were out completely.
They were out. Yeah. I think
Completely.
Rodney, you got one of those, right?
Yeah, I did. I got the Death Star and the Tauntaun.
Yeah. So they still have tauntauns.
Yeah.
But I
And yeah, they
was-
have the clone trooper helmet,
Yeah.
which I'm so
Yeah.
tempted.
I really want to get that one too, but
I will continually say this, that I'm still floored how popcorn buckets became a thing.
I know, right?
And this is from the guy who collects a lot of crap. But I was like, if you had told me popcorn buckets, and now I have like 20 on the floor. So I mean, it's like whatever.
still,
But
like these, I mean, they've become really impressive replicas. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
like,
that's what I was gonna say. They're for what they are. They're relatively cheap,
yeah, it's a
right?
hunk of plastic.
Hunk of plastic, and they're like $30, considering, and you get some popcorn with it. And then
Yeah.
I was just gonna add, and I'll let you guys continue. But speaking of the Tauntaun, I did have a Zoom meeting for a normie meeting. And I have it behind me, and the guy was like, "Oh, what's that dragon behind you?" So I had to like explain to him, and he's like, he's older than me, he's a nurse, and I was just like, it's actually a tauntaun, it's a popcorn bucket, it's this whole thing. Yeah. And he's like, and he was just like politely like, oh, okay. And it was just like, you can tell he's just like,
He's like,
what a
I'll
fucking
make it. I'll make
yeah,
pictures for you.
exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
sure. I love your dragon popcorn. Yeah, okay.
You can just tell he's just like popcorn bucket, tauntaun. But but anyways.
Like you made that word up. Oh, tauntaun. Yeah.
All right. But we should probably get into it because we got a lot to talk about. We're gonna jump into Andor season 2, episodes 7, 8, and 9. So before we get into specifics, overview. How did you guys like kind of first reaction? Do it into the mic, Lexi.
That was Lexi's reaction. She turned and
I remember during the pinnacle of the Cassian and Cyril fight scene, all that goes down, and just, who are you? Blaster bolt to the head, and my friend and I just literally go to each other.
yeah, that was the same for me. Like that was the moment, and for everything Lexi said, but also the fact that the last thing he heard was "Who are you?" I
Yeah.
just felt like that was just the last slap in the face for that
Yeah,
character.
totally.
And I thought it couldn't have been anything else.
But it is funny though, because in that moment, we are all Mon Mothma in episode 9.
Yeah. Don't run.
Become a meme. It's become a meme now.
Yes.
I've seen it in several iterations. I think one of my favorite is when upper management actually has to work the floor.
Right.
Right.
Like,
No, like we were saying before we were on, like I just think, the buildup was already there from previous episodes,
Yes.
but the one for 7 going into that,
Yeah.
it was really like, oh man, here it comes. And it did not disappoint, and it did not let up once it started. And it was, yeah, it was. It was intense. Very
Masterful use of tension. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
good God. I was kind of
Absolutely.
rocking through the whole damn thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like, my friend and I were just riveted to the screen, and the first time we even looked at each other was when Cyril died, because that was just the culmination of everything. I was like,
Yeah.
what just
Well,
happened?
I mean,
What
the
just
other
happened?
kind of just really neat thing, right? It's like, okay, like, everyone, all of these characters are so smart.
Mhm.
And that is something that absolutely shows through, and how hard that is to write, because you have to be really smart to write this many really smart characters.
Mhm.
And one of the things I really appreciate this whole season is, particularly with these 1 year jumps, a complete faith and trust in the audience that you're going to accept or catch up very quickly with where you're at, right? I mean, so I'm just talking about Cyril right now. Like, his first, well, okay, not his first scene, but the first time he has lines, he's talking to Deidre and he's asking her about the bombing, right? And it's like, we didn't see the bombing, we saw like news reports about the bombing, and he basically just says, like, there's no way that, like, I wouldn't even be able to make it in there. So he already has suspicions that, and just that line of, him saying, I wouldn't even have been able to make it in there. So it's like it's already casting suspicions on, you know, the Empire is basically setting everyone up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree to, like, as I was saying off camera before, like I watched all of them in a row this weekend, which is why I haven't been on, because I hadn't watched it at all. I hadn't had time. And then I stupidly suddenly I have I have 9 hours. What the hell happened? So I mean, but I watching that from start to finish was just like it was a roller coaster. I
Yeah.
mean, from the beginning, from when he takes the TIE fighter, which was also a very well done opening, I thought. Like, what a great way to bring you back in there. And then to where we end up, I was just like, man, my emotional level for this is like just it's unchecked. I mean,
You
just
know,
crazy.
actually, here's an interesting question, Jason. Since you
Mm,
you experienced it all straight through, basically,
mhm.
so the arc with the Maya, the
My
the Maya Pei group that was kind of disparate and splintering.
Oh, the ones trying to get on the ship. Yeah. And
Yeah, how did that play out for you going straight through with all the context of everything else?
I was fine with it. I mean, and when I first started it and that kind of like happens like immediately, my initial thought was just like, the show is called Andor. What the hell? Where's I mean, like it was a lot of time spent with that. So and so I was fine with it at the time, thinking like, oh, this is gonna go somewhere, and then it kind of really doesn't. I mean, fully. I mean, so but I think I was more forgiving because I had more to go. I think if I just watched those three and it had been over, I would have been a little disappointed. But I
Mm.
mean, yeah, I was fine with it. I mean, I thought it was well acted, and again, very tense moments. But I mean, not my favorite arc. But I mean, I dealt with it, I should say. So, but once we got past that, then it was nonstop for me. So.
Yeah, I mean, I understood why people didn't gravitate to it, but I mean,
Mhm.
I kind of immediately kind of picked up on the world building aspect of that, of just kind of
Mhm.
like, where the rebellion is, you know,
Right.
um, right now. And of course, really, there's a lot of foreshadowing in the Maya Pei group as we get to the Gorman front too.
Yeah, I would agree with that, where like it was not the most enjoyable arc, but I understood why it was important.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understood its
Yeah.
significance and I understood its function, especially because so much of Star Wars that we see focuses on these really tight-knit, found family, pretty functional groups of rebels.
Hmm.
And we haven't really had a chance to see the any of the dysfunction, which there surely is, because this the whole one of the heart, one of the central parts of Rogue One and Andor is how, community builds resistance.
Right.
It takes a village to rebel. It takes multiple villages.
Right.
Well, and I
So,
think it also, I mean, it also kind of speaks to like, a lot of stuff that we're getting out of both Luthen and uh Forrest Whitaker too, right?
yeah, Saw
Of
Gerrera,
this
yeah.
idea of like right now we're watching Luthen's rebellion, and he has to work in the shadows, and it has to be this world of distrust and intrigue. But ultimately you can't run the rebellion on that, right? Because all that distrust, all that not knowing, it's just not sustainable
That's why he
after a
needs Mon
point.
Mothma.
Yeah.
And I'll
Um,
add to real quickly. Good thing you brought that up, Annie, because what's the first shot? It's of Yavin,
yeah.
the rebel base. So you have this. The last time we were on Yavin, you have this dysfunction, and then the next time we're on Yavin, you have this full formed rebellion, like
Mhm.
Right.
with an army. So you see from an arc standpoint of just the rebellion itself, how far the rebellion has come
Yeah.
from those
Absolutely.
moments.
Um, yeah, I mean, and okay, well, yeah, I'm gonna come back to Yavin base, but okay, so the other thing too, so going back to Cyril, um, watching Deidre kind of, well, okay. So I want to talk about that kiss, right? She basically just tries to shut him up and say, "You need to start packing," and that kiss, um, is just such a loaded moment. Um, I just it's the relationship just got so fascinating between them.
I want
And,
the couples counseling show of that.
Oh,
Well, the spin-off of them talking through their
the Imperial couples
yeah,
therapist.
exactly,
Oh my
exactly.
God,
Yeah,
dude.
it's
well,
like
I mean,
man,
honestly, it could be group couples because then you can get Bix and Cassian in there,
true,
and
true. There's a lot to unload. So yeah,
yes,
no, you're right.
um, um, yeah. I mean, so this was another thing too. I thought was just really interesting. So when he after he kind of finds out, he questions Deidre about all the mining ships and all that,
Mm.
and he runs out and he finds Rylance's daughter, and that whole I needed to see you, and he comes up with that suggestion of, look, if we play this off as outside agitators, you know we can save, well, he doesn't even get to finish his sentence. She just straight up slaps him. um and it's interesting because it's almost as if we are watching the final 3 episodes of a season, because if there was a full season, then you'd probably have some conflicted, interesting, like love triangle,
Mm.
right? But because that doesn't really matter in this, it's like we're just gonna leave the moment there. It was in the original draft. Let's move on.
Speaking of the Rylance family, I thought that it was they didn't quite just hit Cyril with "Who are you?" once, they hit him with it twice.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
said the entire episode is like, "Who the fuck are you actually, dude?
Yeah.
Who are you actually?" Because he runs into Rylance, and Rylance is like, "You knew about this? What kind of man are you? What kind of being are you?"
Mm.
yeah.
And
I love that. I love that line.
Mm.
yeah,
What kind of
so
being are you? What's,
like,
and yeah, and he also
yeah, what
asks,
kind of
what's in
man
our
are you?
ground, right? Because this is when he older Rylance
Yeah.
calls out that the mining ships are here.
And that's when he goes to Dedra and loses it on her. But it's so interesting because he gets asked, what kind of man are you? What kind of person? What kind of being are you, that you can overlook this? That you can overlook what's right in front of you? And the thing that I said for episode 7 was, I think is that the episode where Jed was like, "Turn out the lights." Is that episode in episode 7, or is that
Uh,
in
was
arc?
that was the last arc, wasn't it?
The last arc. Okay,
Yeah.
so
That was
I
the end.
yes. Okay, so that's the even more to my point. So in the last arc, she says, "Turn off the lights," and I think it's like the first time he hesitates, and he finally does it.
Yeah.
And I kind of went, "Oh, that's interesting,"
Yeah.
because in earlier episodes, he was all gung ho to take orders and be part of the team and get the intel and do the thing. He was very puppy dog about it, as much as someone like Cyril can be.
This is the greatest moment of my life.
This is the greatest moment of my life, such a fanboy. And this arc, I was like, I kind of said to my friend, like, after one of the first scenes he was in, I said, he's a little less compliant.
Yeah.
Let's see how far they carry that through. And like, I think for the first time in the entire 2 seasons, we see him being like, yes, he is told to drop the Andor case, like the murder of his coworkers in season 1, and yeah, he doesn't listen. But his non-compliance in this seems to go directly. There's more of it somehow. It's not redemption, but he's definitely actually making more decisions for himself. And I thought that was, I mean, and it ultimately led to the unraveling of his whole worldview. Too little, too late.
Well, what and I love the scenes with her and him, and she's like, she says, well, she says, look, we're gonna be together, we're going back to Coruscant, and when he doesn't react, she just starts, you know, like digging in on him, and it's like, well, you didn't seem to mind
The
mind the
promotion.
promotions,
Yeah.
um, and he like lets go of her, which is, oh wait, no, okay, okay, let's get to the choking.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
choking was shocking to me.
Yeah.
It was like almost triggering, but it was like I mean, justified, but just made me so uncomfortable.
Well, because it's domestic violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally domestic violence, and it was shocking to me, and kind of, I don't know, sadly not surprising as a femme
Yeah.
person, because he is exactly the type I know. Like, I avoid that type of man, because when they finally snap, they do that kind of shit. Like,
Well, I mean, it's also interesting in that
he played him so well.
Deidre and Cyril kind of represent these two different paths that make them pliable to the space fascists, right?
Mhm.
Whereas you have um Deidre, who's is like the traditional Imperial that is, you know, mostly motivated by ambition, right? And that's even something like, it's just interesting, like all of her interactions with Partagas, where, he's you know, telling oh God, what is the line? He says, Deidre, let your professional ascendants calm your nerves, he says. Just another, just so many great Partagas lines. But
He had some really great lines. What was that, like? He gives some guy an assignment, and it says something like, it was like, adjust your enthusiasm, but it was way
yes,
clever than that. What was it? What was
it
it?
was a measure, or was it measure, or
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, it was like I gave you this mundane thing. Calm down.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
it
was like
was.
slow your roll, pal.
regulate
Yeah,
regulate your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
regulation. Yeah, yeah. It was a very, very erudite. Slow your roll, bro.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but
I
then
could
in
relate to
the
that because I act like that sometimes when I get things that I think are so much grander than they actually are. And you're like, no,
illusions of
it's really,
grandeur.
yeah, exactly. It's like, it's really not that big a deal, dude. Oh, okay. I'll get off my high horse now.
So this is the right. So okay, so Deidre's ambition that drives her versus, if you think about it from day one, like Cyril has been about his perception of justice and order,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not even ambition. It's like it's a sense of justice
He's
and
very coded
maintaining order.
autistic.
And the thing is, watching him unravel as he kind of starts to discover that the order or the laws, right? It's like, whether it's lawful or unlawful. He started off with this guy, Cassian, he killed someone, he broke the law, therefore he should go down, and I'm going to make it my life mission to bring him down, right? But now he's like questioning that entire structure of law. Who's deciding what is lawful and what is not?
Well, he
And is
wants
there any
respect.
sense of justice in
He
this
wants
genocide of the Gorman
respect,
people?
right? Yeah,
Sorry, say again.
so he does value justice and order, and I think I would actually switch those two. He values order and justice, and his love of order is the thing that made him turn a blind eye to the injustice for so
Right.
long. Um, to me, I think he's very coded autistic to me.
Mm-mm.
Very, very rigid, specific sense of justice. It's such an eye for detail, from everything to his decor to his fashion. He's got an eye for patterns, analytical, looking at like all of this data, seeing the patterns, connecting the dots, and finding, corruption and fraud where other people would miss it. Obviously has a hard time connecting with people socially. A lot of that, I think, is Edie's fault, Monster Mom, but I think he is coded quite autistic. And I think, like I said, his love of order blinded him to the particular injustices. And now he's finally put in a position, like you said, in Gorman, where he starts to identify with them. He starts to get in with the locals and feel comfortable. Finally somewhere that he lives finally appreciates his custom collars and his hair. You know what I mean? Um, but he really wants respect, as like you saw, like we pointed out when he's like, "Oh, this is the best day of my life." So so he wanted to be respected by people that he thought were bringing order and justice.
Yeah.
And he's really brutally forced into the truth that is not what is actually happening. Oh, and they don't respect you, dude, like at all.
Yeah.
And I think there was a little bit more to his selfishly wanting to be respected. I know it's tempting to give him a little more redemption. The reason I don't quite give him as much redemption is because that lashing out reaction to choking Dedra,
Yeah.
that's a
I
literally
mean, yeah,
power. It's literally a power grab.
yeah.
It's you fucking respect me right now because I have my life in your hands.
Mhm.
So much of his fury is at finding out, like a good part of his fury is very selfish, where he finds out in fact he was not respected at all, and maybe these people aren't even worthy of his respect.
I mean, it's such a fascinating, and yeah, and I don't think there's a redemption arc either. It walks this really interesting line, where you do sympathize, but like, I mean, uh, the fact that he goes back out into the crowd, but of course, it's too late. There's nothing he can do but stand there in the middle of it and just watch. Or even like the scene where he's shuffled away into the back room and he sees the six KX droids, right? And just that one just kind of stares at him, and you just like see him reacting to everything that is going on around him. It's such a wild performance, and to get from that to the fight where he finally sees Cassian, and yeah, that he just loses it
The
because this
guy,
all
it's
began with him,
guy.
right? And it's like all that rage just kind of channels like all the loss of control, and of course, yeah, as you mentioned, where it's like Cassian just says, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And you just see him crumble,
Yeah,
right? But before he even dies, he has this moment, and you just see him
just
crumble.
implodes.
And it's fascinating because this is thematically, I would say every arc has ended with an empty death of some kind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was Brasso, who didn't need to die in that moment, and then the last
Sent a
arc,
friendly fire.
yeah, and then of course the arc before that was Clea, right?
No, Clay is still with us.
No, I mean, Cinta,
Hey,
Cinta,
Cinta, yeah. Well, oh, and we had Tay. I guess that was a meaningful death. Tay Colma.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, and now it's Cyril who has this empty death. In that, what has he accomplished? Does he matter? And of course, this is all within the context of, again, there's this overarching theme of, we are all we are all the martyrs, right? Like, Luthen does not expect to live to see, the rebellion in the New Republic. Neither does I keep forgetting the character name, Forrest Whitaker, um
Oh, Saw Gerrera.
Saw Gerrera. But, and for that matter, like the entirety of the Gorman, right? Like, they never asked to be in this place, but they also have no choice. Like, they are just going to die, whether or not Cyril or, Luthen intervened or not. Like, they would have been set up for this regardless, and they are
Yeah,
just casualties. Um, and it kind of calls into, like, the just the horrible realities of colonialism, right? Um, There was a play that I saw earlier last or this year that was from the perspective of a woman who had grown up in in Guam. And you know, of course, the history of Guam was that Guam was liberated by the Americans from Japanese occupation during World War II. But of course, then it became a military base for the Americans, and it still is to this day. Um, the military base ultimately decimated a lot of their food production and their fields, and you know, and this was like kind of talking about the whole show kind of like was focused around spam and the relationship between spam and people of Guam, and kind of talking about, well, it's like, okay, do you ask the United States to leave and just like, you know, give us our land back? But as soon as you do that, you know, China, who actually has a missile that they named the Guam Killer, right? Um, um, that they boast that can destroy all of Guam in about, you know, 20 minutes. Um, like they're likely to, you know, because it's been deemed strategic, they are just stuck in this place where, you know, there is no way out for them. And it did make me think of that, um, you know, historically of, you know, these societies that are just stuck being catalysts.
I mean, there's a lot to that because I read, a piece of an interview with Tony Gilroy that's been circulating around. So, others listening might have read it too. But he talks about how, it is very intentional. And he knew that this was going to be topical because so many patterns in history repeat themselves that as long as you stick to those central truths about the political things that people go through, he's like, you could pretty much have hypothetically shown this to anybody at almost any point in history, and let's get aside the fact that people hundreds of years ago wouldn't have known what a TV was, but if you showed them this story, they would still feel that it was contemporary because these things happen all the time.
Um, Jason, I want to talk to you a little bit about. I just absolutely love how well, I mean, okay, I don't know about loved, but like was just moved by how the actual like massacre, when the action starts happening, how everything was shot,
Yeah.
and edited.
Yeah.
I mean, did you kind of? I mean, I don't know. I was noticing a lot of just
I was
kind of amazing nuance in that.
Yeah, keeping some, I mean, like, again, I'm not a filmmaker by any stretch on that level, but to keep track of something like that, I'm always fascinated as I'm watching it, I'm also picking it apart in a good way, because I'm like, there's a lot going on. There's a
Yeah.
lot to keep track of. And I mean, like, you've set up these things too that you think are also at points incidental, like the guy that's up waving the flag, and it's like, okay, you get your little Les Mis moment in there, I gotcha. But then he's the first to go, and then I mean, just in yeah, no, I my that was one of the few that my daughter watched with me, and she's going off to film school in 4 months.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and
What
so
film school?
she's going to Savannah College of Art and Design. She's going to
Cool.
SCAD. Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah. No, and now that she's into Star Wars, she occasionally came in and watched some of those with me, but she wants to watch it from the start. But she watched that one, and she also watched one. She's like, "Why do gay couples never get a happy ending?" So,
They did do the kill your gays trope. I rolled my eyes.
yeah, every time, because I'm like, as soon as they kiss, like she turned to me, she's like, "One of them's gonna die." And I was like, and I'm like, you're probably right, because
Probably
that's just
right.
what they, and then sure enough at the end, but yeah, she's got an eye for that kind of thing too, and she was like pointing out a lot of things in regards to, you know, focal lengths and lighting, because that's what she's like really into right now. But yeah, I mean, that was so masterfully shot,
Well,
and
so did you guys notice, right? So when they were shooting any of the gore, it
Mm.
was frenetic handheld, right?
Hmm.
When
Yeah.
any shot of the troopers was a static shot
Yeah.
tripod.
Mhm.
And then everything of Andor was in close up with a Steadicam, with a handheld Steadicam,
Mm.
and then Cyril was in slow motion, in a wide angle lens with all the background just kind of slightly blurred,
Mhm.
and they're cutting between these four different looks,
Mhm.
constantly, which was
Mhm.
just such an amazing thing to let the frame basically get in the head of these of the people.
Yeah, the frames were characters themselves. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, no, it was like I said, that whole thing, like it was really, it blew me away, and it seemed way longer than it actually was. So because I'm like, man, I'm like, people are getting worked. I'm like, this is too much, and it's like, oh, it's 20 minutes. You know what I mean? But it's just,
And
yeah,
not a drip of blood either, too, right?
no. Yeah, I mean, I think for me,
And still brutal.
the most
Yeah.
violent thing was when the K2 droid threw her,
Yes.
and and they
Yeah.
lingered on her, like, we want you to know she's dead, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I got you, but that was pretty bad, and yeah, no, I loved it from an artistic perspective, not
Right.
like, oh, I love watching people get shot. Yeah, no, I mean, it was just, again, it was really well done and well set up. I mean, for something that we just knew was coming and was going to be painful. But yeah.
I also just like the whole idea of the false flag of it
Mm,
all, right?
mm,
Of Kaido, who does not get his hands dirty at all, but he's basically, his job is to create a quagmire,
mm-hmm.
right? He's picked up these naive cadets,
Yeah.
expecting them to lose their nerve. Um, and then he has a sniper who's basically there to friendly fire one of their
Mhm.
own to basically ignite the whole thing.
And the first one who gets
that's
shot,
quite bad, yeah.
and the first one who gets shot is that one trooper you see who's like fumbling with his helmet and then
Yeah.
getting this minute, and then he's the first to go. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, you know what you're doing. So, but yeah, they set up the pieces very well.
The other thing, like Kaido is such an interesting. All of his scenes were so. I mean, he is very much our typical mustache twirling evil Imperial,
Yeah.
but the thing is, with the context of countering him or countering Deidre with him, right?
Mm.
It kind of shows this odd compartmentalization, which is characteristic of fascist regimes, where no one is fully complicit because everyone can just say, well, this is your command, not mine,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
He's like, I'm the trigger, but you're the one in charge.
Yeah.
And then for that matter, it's like Partagas is saying, just do it, just get it done. He's already given her the order to give the order.
Yeah.
And she even makes it a point when Cyril and her are talking, and he's like, "What are we doing here?" And she says, "Following orders."
Mhm.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
And it's like, how many times in the history of it all, right? Especially like the Holocaust, like they use that excuse of
Hiding behind
yeah,
just following orders.
we're just following
The
orders,
banality of evil.
right?
Yeah.
And what I think is interesting is we're on the Imperials right now, and somebody who uses that compartmentalized we're just following orders thing to great effect is Lonnie.
Yep.
Lonnie Young, who is the person who, I mean, and going back to also clever writing, they never directly tell you, but it had to have been Lonnie who informed Luthen that Bail Organa's team was compromised.
Right.
Had to have been Lonnie, but it also had to have been Lonnie who put the plant there under order. And he's like, look, I can't tell you who it is, but I can tell you.
That was such a great little subtle thing, right? Where like you have to be listening to catch that. I didn't honestly, I didn't catch that until maybe like my third
because they
viewing.
said something like they're like Young's agent, and I was like, oh, okay. And I couldn't help but think that Lonnie did the same thing in a different way, because it looked like he sent in a younger green agent who then ended up losing her cool, drawing her weapon, and giving Duke Erskine a second to pull an Uno reverse and go, rebel spy.
Yeah.
You know, like the Uno reverse there was phenomenal. And I was like, you know, that's great, because they all of them have deniability.
Yeah.
They all have deniability. Lonnie did his job. Not his fault. She blew it.
Yeah.
You know, another really subtle thing was every time Deidre is talking to Partagas, it begins with Partagas saying, "Sorry to keep you waiting." Right?
Oh,
It's
really?
that
Oh.
he doesn't want to talk to her. He's like,
Yeah.
just do it.
Yeah.
Stop asking me questions and do it.
Yeah.
I'm not part of this. This is your
Yeah.
operation.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's fun.
These great little kind of subtle things that say so much.
It's like a power move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also a power move. It's one, he's making her know that, like, hey, this is your call. And then even the commander makes it the point too, right? It's like,
Yeah.
what is that great line? He says, I'm the trigger, you're
Yeah.
the finger.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, yeah, so but I know Jason has to leave real quick, but I wanted to ask Jason, I know we're gonna jump around a little bit here, but what did you think of the Force Healer?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
What I would, the Force Psychic. Yeah, that would.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, because this is really the first time they showed anything of the Force,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I felt like that was also there from a narrative standpoint to just set up more for Rogue One. I mean, that's how I would, like, he's got this destiny he has to fulfill. It's like, oh, okay, we're gonna set up that he's gonna be dead soon. I mean, like, I just felt it's also there for people who maybe haven't seen Rogue One. Like, what you talking about? What's going on? What does he have to fulfill? Oh, you're gonna be really disappointed when he dies on that beach. But but no, it was interesting because that's never been, like you said, shown before in any fashion, right? I mean, that she just went up and the blaster wound, and it was unique. I didn't quite know what to think of it, because when they throw in something new, it's always a little jarring when it's like, well, how come we haven't seen that before? Because that would have played really well in this movie or that episode.
Well, I mean, you had Grogu force healing Mando, and then
Well, that's true.
And then you also had, which a lot of people hated, but the sequel trilogy, or the sequel trilogies had a force heal in it as well.
Oh, it did. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get the
So it's just
Grogu.
it's not common, and it kind of seems like I got the impression that this particular force user didn't have a strong enough connection to the force for the Jedi to want her,
Right.
and so she was mostly self-taught, because she's
Okay.
like, sometimes it doesn't even work.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't she's a homegrown, self-taught.
Well,
Right.
and see, so I love that they kind of treat it like, homeopathic, or like,
Yeah.
it's like, really,
Yeah.
Bix, you want me to do acupuncture?
Yeah.
You want me to do cupping?
This is all woo-woo.
Yeah. It was like calling the 1-800 psychic hotline is, I mean, there was just moments like, but yeah, no, but I didn't have a problem with it at all. I just thought it was just like, oh, okay. I mean, that's what we're gonna do. That's fine. But yeah, like Lexi said, I forgot Grogu did it, and I certainly forgot about the sequel trilogy. Sorry, I didn't hate them, but I definitely parts of those have been
Blocked
blacked out. So, yes. So it's like, oh yeah, that did happen. That's right.
Yeah, so there's a precedent for it,
Mhm.
but not super common. So
Right.
that would also be one of the reasons why he's like, come on, babe, you really want me to do?
Yeah. It's like, let's go home. You stay here and you talk to this crazy. I'm gonna go back to the hut. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I really like their house on Yavin.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. They've got the best setup of all, I think. They're away from, the base, kind of a little secluded. It's like, hey, honey, what's happening? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like the design of the house too.
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
And to the comment you were calling out before, yeah, it's like, seeing that the rebellion is becoming this community, right? That there, there is an order to it all, and how much it's grown. People have a home here, right?
Yeah.
Um, Also, okay, going back to the Force healer in well, particularly Bix, right? Um, and she's asking the Force healer about about Cassian, and one of her lines to Cassian after after he like is saying, "Why did you take me to this place?" and she says, she felt this stuff about you, and she says, I've felt it too, and I'm not afraid to say that,
Yeah.
right? Which, I mean, it's like, I don't know if it's implying that Bix is Force sensitive. I mean, but it's like there is something to be said for they are now kind of bringing in this kind of sense of destiny
Yeah.
into the story, which is an important um element of Star Wars storytelling.
I think
And
it's
so it's like, starting to bridge from the grounded gritty
Yeah.
into,
Yeah.
there is this larger world out there.
Yeah.
I think it was a smart way to incorporate the Force into this particular property, because this particular property is not about trained Force users who've cultivated their connection and their skills
Yeah.
in the Force. That's not what it's about. But the Force is in everybody. In Rogue One, you see you have Chirrut, who's Force sensitive, even if he's again also homegrown and home trained, right? And not necessarily a Force user in the used to seeing with Jedi.
Right.
But I think it was a good way to illustrate, or like to add in the Force working through the everyday people and how their relationship with it would actually be, because they probably wouldn't see a Jedi if there were only 10,000 of them, and there's however many millions of people in the galaxy, billions of people in the galaxy,
And they'd probably be like, "Oh shit, that guy's moving rocks."
Yeah.
So, it's like, let's put him in front. So,
what did you guys think of so at some point Vel comes to Bix and basically asks her to help Cassian get it together. Um it's interesting to see where Vel is in she's just kind of in this mode where she's just training people, she's not in the field, but kind of talking about um obviously they've all seemed to have like fallen out with Luthen, and she has that we're not Luthen's puppets anymore. um I found that very interesting.
yeah, she's just working. She's working through it all,
I
especially
mean,
after that death, it's like,
yeah.
I got nothing left. So,
I mean, and I'm sure at a certain point she probably talked to Cassian, or found out somehow that Cassian was like, I told Luthen the people in Gorman were green,
Yeah.
and I told him they were a liability, and so I'm sure she takes that pretty personally, that he didn't listen, that it got Cinta. That I'm sure she holds Luthen responsible for Cinta.
right.
Well, I mean, I think it's also, I mean, it's the thing, like we know that, Luthen wanted the Gormans to go out and die. Like that's the most interesting thing about this whole arc, is that
He knew there was gonna
both
have
the
to be
Imperials and Luthen wanted the same thing, for the Gorman to be the
Collateral
martyrs,
damage,
that
yeah, all of it.
which is just, tragic,
Mm-hmm.
but just fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Let's see
Oh,
here.
ooh,
Yeah.
really quick thing with you're talking about Vel. Vel, we get to see a scene of her training, and it brings back one of our Rogue One season 1
Oh,
characters,
yeah.
Melshi.
Whose gun
Well,
is this? I think that's mine.
well, also, and of course, it is also very much a period on the end of Cyril's story, right?
Mhm.
Because that is the gun,
That's
that's
the
the
gun.
blaster that Cassian takes from him.
On
It's the only other
Ferris.
time they've actually met face to face. Well, I guess not face to face, but but yeah,
Chased it back. Yeah.
But it's also where like his humiliation begins,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's yeah, like such a cool moment on multiple levels, right? Because it's like clearly she's recognizing it because it's the gun, it's the blaster that when she met Cassian on Aldani, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and he
He
he had
had,
in hand, right?
yeah, that was his the pre-war issued gun, and he's like, okay. Um, I think somebody asked him how he got it, and he's like, I never got a name. I think he actually says like, I never got a name. So that was another added level to who are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, I never got that dude's name. Who the fuck are you? Um,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like, I know who you are. I spent years looking at your hologram. You son of a bitch. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that was again, that was the coup de grace, I think, for him. So
I saw a short interview, like video interview with Kyle Soller, who's the actor who played Cyril, and he said, he said, oh, well, I came up with a scene after in my head because, of course, Cyril doesn't know he's dying, so does he's like, I came up with what Cyril would have done if he had not been shot, and he's like, I honestly gave it a little thought and thought that he would have thrown down the gun completely shattered and disillusioned with absolutely everything and tried to go live some quiet solitary life and get away from everything.
yeah.
Right.
He would have just given up. And that's also is part of the reason why I was like, I think there's a little bit of selfish need for respect that drove his actions, and his interview really confirmed that for me, because that order and respect were priorities above justice for him. He likes justice, but insofar that it's orderly and all of that, because his sense of justice also would cleave to, I deserve respect, it's unjust I'm not getting it. And that really confirmed it for me, because he didn't say, oh yeah, he would flip and maybe join the rebellion. He's like, no, he'd give up and walk away at that point.
So, okay, so here's my dark mirror on that then. Um, Bix. So Bix basically makes this choice for Cassian and leaves. She says she chooses the rebellion because we have to win.
Right.
How did you guys feel about that?
I mean, I was fine with it. I think from a narrative standpoint, it clearly had to happen
Yeah.
because, I mean, where was that character?
Yeah, she wasn't in Rogue One. There had to be a
Right.
reason. I think it made sense for her because we see after, she's after they free her at the end of season 1,
Mhm.
that she's no longer hesitant about the rebellion.
Yeah.
It's her lifeline.
Yeah.
And she genuinely believes that Cassian is irreplaceable to this rebellion. She deeply believes it needs to work. She needs it for herself, you know? And I don't think she would be able to live with herself if she was the reason he left the rebellion.
And then of course though, it's so tragic and awful too, because ultimately she does to Cassian what they have all done to the Gorman, right? It's like
Yeah.
by making that choice for him, he, he is going to die, right? And I mean, and there's even that moment with Luthen where it's like, when you said yes to me all those years ago, I mean, we're both gonna get strung up. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it was done in the most eloquent yet heartbreaking way possible.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll find each other when this is over, and it's like, oh,
Oh,
that
yeah.
one ripped. I mean, I was just
Yeah.
like, oh man, that's rough, buddy.
That's
So,
right.
so, but the quote Avatar.
My boyfriend got blown up by the Death Star, which was not a moon.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
rough, buddy.
that's rough, buddy. So, but yeah, no, I was totally fine with it and really don't think there could have been any other way.
I think if they tried to stack another death in there, it almost would have hit Game of Thrones death fatigue levels.
Yeah, which is where I thought it was.
Stacked.
That's where I thought she was going with the whole
Yeah.
drug abuse and everything. I'm like, oh, they're gonna kill her off. I'm like, that sucks. But I was
That's
like, oh no,
dark, yeah.
yeah, but they didn't. It's like, okay, good. I applaud this decision. So I mean,
Like, I like to think she specifically went to somebody, you know, higher up in the rebellion because she said, I choose the rebellion, and said, get me an assignment off this planet and don't tell Andor where I went.
right.
You know
I
what
mean,
I mean?
that's the interesting thing of where we think she's gone, right? I mean, where do you go to hide in this galaxy?
Yeah.
I don't know if she's hiding so much as, I don't know, maybe.
I think she reunites with B2 emo.
I'd like to think that's what happens. I would
Yeah.
very much like to think
True.
she does
He's like,
that.
where's Cassian?
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that the meme format with like the mom with like the one kid at the side of the pool, and like in the foreground there's the one kid just struggling for dear life in the water?
Yeah.
And so they have that meme template with Cassian as the mom, the little kid getting attention is K2SO, and then the drowning bot is, and you just see B2EO and it says Cassian.
That's
That's funny.
all he does. It's all he says. It's all he knows. It's all he wants.
I feel so bad for him. He's
Yeah.
like a dog left behind on vacation, and he's like, "Where is everybody?"
Yeah, it's like Fry's dog in Futurama. I'll just wait here.
That was actually, you know, somebody made that meme too. They
Oh,
put
did they? Yeah.
Emo in front of Panucci's Pizza, and I was like,
Love it.
"Oh,
Can't
you're making me cry and laugh at the same time."
Oh.
No, it's funny.
Yeah,
I'm
but
glad you
whole
mentioned
the whole
that.
Bix thing of it all too is, I think we talked about it last week, and you said, like, you know, Luthen and Cassian had that one scene where he said, like, you're gonna have to make a choice, and it was like almost implied that like he was gonna have to make a choice between the rebellion and Bix.
Yeah.
And I thought that they were setting up that like either Cassian was gonna make that decision or Luthen was gonna make the decision for him. But then I thought it was so more impactful and even greater, that shows that like she had the agency of like, these two men aren't going to make the decision about this. I'm going to make this decision. And so she finally ultimately makes the decision. You're saying like, hey, and it's like, what better person to make that decision, because out of everybody, she believes in Cassian way more than anybody else does, because she has known him the longest.
So, you know, so I had one fleeting like hypothesis. What if she's carrying Cassian's kid? And what if Cassian's kid is force sensitive, which is giving her
She is, because if she was,
Yeah.
then yeah, if she was force sensitive, then
that could be what they could be hinting at with her. I felt it too, and I'm not ashamed to say it. And yeah, it was just a fleeting thought. I don't know. I don't think they'll do that, but it was a thought.
yeah,
Um,
definitely a thought. I was like, well, I mean,
and it would be a way to just kind of put in a little kind of a closure, happy ending or hopeful ending,
kind of like
as an epilogue, right?
Hera and Caden's kid, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, chip off the old block.
Okay, other kids, Willman. I find it fascinating. Well, okay, surprised that he didn't join up with Saw.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know,
He's got a type.
he's got a type.
Not a type. Yes.
So I think the type is stronger than the Rhodian. The pull of the
Yeah.
Rhodian is not as strong as the pull for blonde, blue-eyed, or resistance fighters.
Right.
Yeah, pull the blazing saddles.
Well, and also that he's the one to be focused on Deidre too, right? He's like, you know, Cassian, you got to come back. You got to take out
he's
Deidre.
the one who orders the hit on Dedra for sure. I think he's like, she was behind Ferric, she's behind this, she's a monster.
Yeah.
He's not wrong. Her like usual like I like just hats off to the actress because we were already like I think we'd already talked about like how it was unsettling to see her practice smiling in the mirror because she has such phenomenal resting bitch face.
Oh, you're
And
talking about for Deidre, or
yeah, so during episode
yeah,
9, like the scowl
the
she had on
scowl
was
when
just
she's looking over
and
the crowd. Yeah,
yeah, and then her final breakdown, like her private meltdown, where like she's the decision she's made have constricted her so much, and she's
yeah.
like tugging at the prison of her
I
clothes.
I mean, I felt like that was also referencing the choke from Cyril too,
Yeah,
and then like the whole multiple Picard maneuvers as she's straightening the uniform over and over again,
yeah.
trying to the other thing I noticed, right, is that her hands start trembling, and I don't know if it was on purpose, but it made me think. Remember, like a couple episodes back, and I really zeroed in on Partagas had that kind of hand twitch, and that was like the one kind of crazy thing that was going on when he's giving this really directed dialogue, and I don't know if it's an active choice of okay, so is she referencing Partagas's kind of weird hand twitch as well? Is this like I don't know. I just found that really interesting.
She also did the hand twitch before meeting his mother.
Oh, really? I didn't catch that.
They do a shot and she's got her hands kind of behind her back, like 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 a server at a fancy restaurant, and
Hmm.
her fingers are twitching on one hand.
Interesting. Oh,
Mhm. Yeah, so it's I just she did that meltdown beautifully. That was one of the most
yeah.
organic on-screen meltdowns I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Get it. Get it. That was impressive. I was like, oh yeah, I've been there. Yeah, I've been there.
So we've covered a lot of ground. Um, um, let's get into Cassian specifically. We actually that's kind of funny. We've talked about everyone. We've talked around Cassian. Um, but yeah, any impressions or just kind of things about his arc for the through all of this?
It's been interesting watching him fluctuate between I don't know if I'm into this. Okay, I'm into this. I don't know if I'm into this. And how much of it, is like
Well,
we see
I
him
mean,
really
we
start
really
to
see
waver,
it weigh on him, right? I mean,
Well,
there's that
especially when he now has
fantastic
something to lose.
moment when he's driving away from the massacre,
Mhm.
with the KX droid in the trunk, and as woman's girlfriend is on the comms, basically saying, we're being destroyed, we're being killed. Is there anyone out there? And he's just kind of has the stone face, but the tear dropping,
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
of just the weight that he's been carrying, despite being very good at what he does.
It kind of makes you think about, even though there hasn't been something on the scale of the Gorman massacre, it makes you think about the amount of time we had to probably leave somebody behind
Yeah.
for like the greater success of the rebellion, and how he's probably really tired of walking away from people who are suffering.
Well, I mean, for that matter, I mean, this was something that was very telling in the last episode, the last arc too, when he says, "Okay, you're wanting to rebel, but you don't want to leave. That's never going to work, right?" And that's the major flaw in the Gorman front. But thinking about that in terms of, like they left the Aldanis behind. Just because we didn't see them get massacred didn't mean that they weren't. I mean,
Mhm.
weren't. I
There
mean,
weren't retaliations.
I mean, they talked about it of they were mocking the culture. They were ultimately, committing a genocide on them as well, right?
Yeah,
Um, so it's like so it's not the first time, and
absolutely.
it's just the as Luthen calls out, it's the richest, it's the biggest, and the most visible.
Mm-hmm.
To
Yeah,
be.
Yeah.
I think it was a good way too of just setting up the Cassian that we're going to see, or that we know come Rogue One time.
Yeah.
You know, because there were certain aspects where I'm like, where's that guy? When's he gonna pop up? You know, and I think that was one of the first times I'm starting to see like, oh, that's how we're gonna get to him. You know, I mean, in that one moment.
You know, it's been so long. I've been holding off on watching Rogue One until this
Mhm.
finishes.
Yeah.
But I forget what his interactions were with Chirrut and oh, what are their names? Donnie Yen and the other guy,
Yeah, I haven't watched
the
it in
two
a while.
Force monks.
Yeah, as soon as like these ones are over on Tuesday, I think I'm gonna go right in or try to go into Rogue One because I'll have a little time and I want to see
Yeah.
like
Yeah, we definitely should do that.
Yeah.
We should all rewatch Rogue One after that and then talk about it. Yeah.
But I do like vaguely remember that he was much more accepting of the Force monks
Mm-hmm.
than this Cassian seems to be, right?
yes.
So
Yeah.
and that's going to be the interesting thing to look for this next arc is
Here. Yeah.
what level of his destiny does he start to accept,
Mhm.
and you know, or what changes his mind about okay, maybe there's something to the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Right, probably in Bix leaving too. I mean, because
Yeah.
she believed in that, and it's like, oh, well, then maybe I ought to give this a try, be more accepting. And it's like, okay, so, but
Yeah, do I disrespect the last thing she asked of me?
right, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And even though
Yeah.
I can see like that was the other thing is I think Bix made that decision because she knew deep down that if they ran off together, as tempting as that sounded, he would regret it and she would regret it. And she's like,
Mm.
I'm not going to be the cause of a decision you regret. I won't let
Right.
you do that to both either of us.
Yeah.
So speaking of regrets, let's talk about Mon Mothma
On
as
Mothma.
she, like, you know,
I don't
starts
even
to
see her
basically
family in
take on
picture
the
at this point.
weight of what this rebellion really means. And I just found that so fascinating. Of course, you know, how much she knows that the fight is ahead, but she's never really had to kind of be in it. And this whole experience is just, uh, I mean, wonderfully active. Genevieve O'Reilly, um, killing it. Um, all of the conflict, all of the irony and the fear, right? Even to the point where, I mean, I love the idea of that she goes into the speech thinking she doesn't know if she can trust anyone, right? Even to the point where she doesn't trust Luthen. Now she finds out that her assistant was even planted there,
Yeah.
and she doesn't trust anyone at this point, right? Because potentially even Bale's team is compromised.
Mhm.
So like, yeah, what
I felt so
thoughts
bad.
about?
I felt so bad. Like I understood why she was angry with Erskine for reporting back to Luthen, basically being his guy on the inside. I could see why she was angry, and I still felt so bad for him when she was like, "Nat, no, I'm firing you. You're gone." And he's like, "Okay, man." I'm like, just like he genuinely cares about her so much,
Yeah,
so much. And that was another one of those. He's like, "Well, I can't disrespect your wishes, even though I'm genuinely here for you. So I guess I'll leave now." And it was like felt very much like dismissing a loyal dog, and he kind of. Yeah, her speech was phenomenal. I like the way that they kind of retconned in for their own narrative of the rebellion. How they worked in what happened in Rebels with Mon Mothma to
Right.
this, where they're like, look, like it's Cassian who got her out of there, but for optics, we need to have it be this group because
right.
Cassian still
Well,
needs to be.
well, that idea of we still need to reclaim the story, right?
Yeah.
Like not knowing what actually made it out on broadcast, but it's like, okay, so you know, we need her to do a speech to tell the galaxy what's happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, we need a version for that we can broadcast that's like wasn't necessarily tampered with by the government, and it made total sense. Like we need to be able to control our own narrative, which is such a big that one hits on a lot of levels.
I also just loved all of her interactions with Luthen, right? As she starts to really kind of come to terms with everything that he's been doing,
You mean
you
with
know,
Bale?
in the shadows.
You mean with Bale?
No, with Luthen.
Oh,
right?
with Luthen.
I mean,
Okay.
like the fascinating thing of her saying, you know, I'm more afraid of you right now than I am of anything
True,
else.
true,
Right.
true.
And Luthen's reply, we've all been bent by secrecy, haven't we? Right.
Mhm.
This is Luthen kind of recognizing that his time is starting to come up, that his way is not going to be long lasting.
It's had its purposeful. Is it that those methods are almost and reaching the end of their usefulness in this particular part of the rebellion. I think he says something. I'm blanking on the exact phrasing, but he says something about like but I do know what I owe you, Mon.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I know what I remember what I don't know what the exact line, but I think I caught that as well.
Mhm. And
Yeah,
I love that little micro react when he says, I have friends everywhere, and she's like, this is the guy.
I mean, his
This guy.
delivery too. It's like
Yeah.
he's just like, I have friends everywhere. You will be my friend whether you like it or not.
Like what
You're my
like what
friend now.
what Lexi said too about them retconning Rebels a little bit. Like I read an article and I was just trying to look for it so I could quote it directly, but I can't find it. But it was like one of the writers or whoever wrote that speech for Andor specifically was like Lucasfilm or Disney came to them and said like, hey, you got to make sure that this works with Rebels. And the guy was like, he's like, you're not gonna make me adhere to someone to writing for a fucking cartoon, are you? Like he got like really like mad about, and it was like, well, I get that, but it's like, Rebels is more than a cartoon. But I mean, I think that's an example of someone who's not fully understanding, you know, the gravitas of everything that they're expected to adhere to. So I just thought, I mean, I get it. It's like, yeah, it's like I'm writing for serious television. I'm writing for no animated little kiddie and that it was a fascinating little read. But yeah, I'm not trying to make it sound like a jerk, but it was just funny to read that he's like, yeah, it's like we're gonna make it our own. Okay, that's fine.
Well,
That
I mean,
works.
and it does speak to the themes of this overall, right? It's like everyone has been bent by the secrecy and
Mm.
the definition of truth, right?
Mm.
When she says, when you lose truth, you lose. I mean, basically, everything is compromised, right? And once you cannot determine the truth, and that speaks to how the Gormans are martyred, how ultimately Luthen and Cassian will eventually be martyred,
Mm.
and what she is doing versus what Luthen has been doing,
Mm.
right? And why she needs to lead and Luthen cannot,
Mm.
right? I mean, that's the other kind of thing too of like here are all these leaders of the rebellion, but there is military leadership, which is strategic, which is cutthroat, which is and then there is governance,
Mm.
which is diplomacy, and uh, uh, it's an interesting contrast.
Right.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
And of course that is further pushed, I mean, multiple times where we get to see Imperial media. Um, um, we hear them literally parrot some of the same like lines that are coming out of Partagas and
The
yeah,
propaganda.
the
Yeah.
propaganda lines. Talking about the fallen patriots of the Empire. Um, um, one last thing I want to ask about the moment with Edie. What was your guys' read on that?
Uh, you know, her love. I don't think Edie knew how to love in a way that wasn't selfish.
Mm.
She did not know. She was not a good mother. She was not a good person. But damn if they didn't do such a complex job of writing her that I still saw her as a real person. And Catherine Hunter, is the actress?
I can't remember. Yeah, but I mean,
I think so, and she plays her so phenomenally and with so much depth when it would have been easy to lean into bitchy tropes
yeah.
that I had several levels of thought. One of them was, ha, bet you wish you'd been nicer to him now. That's what you get. And then on another level, I just went, oh, poor mom.
Yeah.
Oh, no parent should ever, no
Well,
parent should ever have to, and I felt for her. At that point, she was just a little old lady sitting there on the couch and finding out that her son's probably dead.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
wasn't what I was expecting. I mean, like I thought since she was there at Friends too, it's like, oh, if that happened, she's gonna sit and like chat and then just turn off the TV and be like, so anyway, I mean, but it was nice to see that that wasn't the case, that she did have a heart.
Though
So
I
well,
fully
and
expect that if they
also,
touch on her in the last, I fully expect that if they do bring her up again in the next arc, that she will
Mhm.
be using Cyril's martyrdom status as a way to aggrandize herself. She's gonna
Yeah.
go right back to being awful. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
I mean, honestly, I would love to see one more scene between her and Deidre to just, what
Oh,
that fallout would look like, right?
Mhm.
And for that matter, we don't know how Cyril will be painted, right? And that was something I was thinking about watching her cry and listening to the newscaster talk about, there will be an investigation just to find out how this insurgents could be this effective or this militarized,
right.
right?
So
And
either
so
he'll get
that's the
martyred
question of he
or he'll
was
get
there
buried.
as a plant to basically incite them. It's like, will Deidre ultimately sell him out
Will he
to
become the
support that
fall guy,
narrative?
or will they use him as a martyr, or will they make him the fall guy?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, very interesting.
Or will he get acknowledged at all? Who are
Yeah,
you?
indeed.
Yeah, so yeah, who that guy? You wonder who that guy is. He's just on the ground dead in the bar. Who's that guy? So, but
Who are you?
yeah, who are you? Oh man.
All right. Well, I think that wraps this up. Tomorrow night is the end of this. I am going to miss talking about this show. Gosh, I mean, it's been such a. I mean, I believe actually there were some stats that episode 8 is maybe like one of the highest rated thing in like in streaming, all of streaming
Mhm.
right now. Um,
I believe it.
Well deserved.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. We're here on the Geekish Network. We'll be back here on Monday next week on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. We will be talking about the final arc next week, and then we'll see what we do after that. Maybe we'll do a wrap up with a rewatch of Rogue One.
Mm.
So check all the schedules for all the other great shows here on the Geekish Network. Thanks on the flight deck to Rodney, and we are the Pod Squadron. Please check out all of our content on podsquadron.com. Like and subscribe. Follow us on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For podcast subscriptions, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app. I am the Chinese Pirate at Chinese Pirate _ on all platforms.
I am Lexi, it's Feral Geek on Facebook and Instagram, and sometimes I even post.
I'm Jason, Beyond Forever Studios on Facebook and Instagram and random other places, but those are the two main ones.
All wings return to base. Course laid in and prepared to make the jump to light speed on my mark. And remember, only the truths we cling to depend on our own point of view. Only the Sith deal in absolutes. Good night.